Well, day one promises broken. Donald Trump did not end the war in Ukraine on day one. And Donald Trump did not do a mass roundup of people in this country for deportation on day one. But on day one, Donald Trump did pardon a child pornographer. No president's ever done that. Donald Trump pardoned the biggest worldwide drug dealer in history, two pardons that no other president in history would ever consider. And tonight, Donald Trump said moments ago on Fox that a child leaves home as a boy and comes back 2 days later as a girl. A parent doesn't want to see that, and there are states where that can happen. Now, if Joe Biden or any other president had ever said something as insanely false as that, as impossible as that, you can imagine the screaming outrage that you would get from the White House press corps. And you can right now imagine that there won't be any from this White House press corps about that statement, that a child leaves home as a boy and comes back 2 days later as a girl. And there are states where that can happen. That is like saying a child leaves home as a boy and comes back 2 days later as a horse. It cannot happen. There is a demented pathological liar in the White House talking like that, and the White House press corps will accept that and not scream about that, as they screamed so constantly during the last presidency. And there will probably be no questions of Donald Trump. There haven't been any so far about him pardoning someone who used child pornography. The child pornography user is also a Donald Trump fan who was at the Capitol on January 6th attacking police officers. Federal prosecutors said Andrew Kyle Grigsby was the tip of the spear on the west front of the Capitol when he wasn't busy committing crimes for Donald Trump. He was busy with his child pornography in Kentucky, where he has been imprisoned on state charges of possession of child pornography. That's who Donald Trump pardoned. The only president in history to pardon a known user of child pornography, convicted for using child pornography, and Donald Trump pardoned him. And the day after Donald Trump did that, he pardoned the world's biggest drug dealer ever, who a federal judge believed was arranging assassinations of his business associates. That's the Trump standard. That's the Trump standard for people deserving pardons, the lowest and most perverse standard ever used by a president for any pardon. You can be convicted of using child pornography, and Donald Trump will pardon you for whatever you did for him. That's the rule. Whatever you did for him, especially if you did it on January 6th. Donald Trump won't hold child pornography against you if you were trying to overthrow the election for him on January 6th. That's the Trump standard. Washington's going to be operating on the Trump standard now, and no president in history has lowered the standard for federal hiring the way Donald Trump has. It seems clear that Donald Trump is making a conscious choice to lower the standard in all of the instances where he has done so, because, this is really important, he knows how to make a cabinet choice that actually does meet the standard. Former Senator Marco Rubio is now Secretary of State Marco Rubio after a unanimous vote to confirm him in the United States Senate on Monday. Unanimous. Marco Rubio was a reasonable Republican choice for Secretary of State at this stage of Marco Rubio's career. Donald Trump knows how to do that, and he knows how to do the opposite by offering Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense after Pete Hegseth's mother said in writing that he is an abuser of women. And yesterday we learned Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law put it in writing in an under oath affidavit to the Senate Armed Services Committee describing Pete Hegseth's abuse of his second wife. And the Hegseth defense is, I never hit her. The Hegseth defense is, it wasn't physical abuse. The women in Hegseth's family did not accuse him of physical abuse. He doesn't have to deny that because he's never been accused of that. And so his denial of physical abuse is irrelevant to what the women in his family have accused him of publicly. We'll cover that for you, the passages of that affidavit later in this hour, along with Pete Hegseth's mother's very specific charges of abuse against her son that she put in writing, which do not include physical abuse. That's an important distinction. As usual, Donald Trump lowered the standard for White House press secretary. Here's the White House press secretary not doing her job.
When is your first press briefing?
To be announced.
By this time in the Biden administration, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki completed 3 press briefings, 1 every day. The first Trump White House went 300 days without a press briefing, and so we are counting the days again. And the people who care the least about that are apparently the members of the White House press corps, because they have their own Trump standard. The only thing they apparently care about is Donald Trump talking to them, not telling them the truth, just talking to them. And they very clearly just don't care about Donald Trump lying to them. The Columbia Journalism Review reports on the feelings of some, not all, some in the White House press corps about the return of the president who lies to them in almost every answer and whose press secretary does not even bother to enter the briefing room. Despite his sometimes strident and sometimes even violent rhetoric about the press, he loves talking to us, the print reporter said. And his team, they like talking to us. And they know that they're going to have a huge audience. I actually think the team that's coming in is not going to be as horrific as people might imagine. The veteran White House reporter said, that's the White House press corps' Trump standard, not as horrific. And they're fine with that. The Columbia Journalism Review reports incoming press secretary Caroline Leavitt and communications director Stephen Chung are seen by White House reporters as full MAGA, but they're also professionals, as the veteran reporter put it. Of course, that's impossible. Full MAGA means full lying all the time about everything. That is not professional press communication from the White House. But it is the Trump standard, the lowered Trump standard, that most members of the White House press corps willingly accept. A lie is not an answer. And most of the White House press corps do not know that or care about it. Most of the White House press corps are eager to be lied to by the White House press secretary, or preferably Donald Trump directly, because most of the White House press corps have instantly adjusted to the Trump standard, the lowest standard ever established by a White House in all things from hiring to truth-telling. Last night on The Daily Show, intrepid correspondent Jordan Klepper showed in interviews of Trump supporters in Washington on Inauguration Day that one of the reasons they supported pardons for all of the January 6th convicted criminals is that they did not know what happened at the Capitol on January 6th.
This guy's shooting a gun outside the Capitol. Should he be pardoned?
I don't think he should have shot a gun. That's just my opinion.
I know.
That's a little different situation there.
Call me old-fashioned. This guy with a gun shooting a gun outside the Capitol?
No, most definitely he should not be pardoned.
And there were 2.1 million people there. They didn't all storm the Capitol. None of them were armed.
Well, some were armed.
Who?
This guy with a gun outside the Capitol, should he be pardoned?
Did he shoot the gun? Is that a real gun or is that a fake gun?
He shot the gun up in the air. Yes.
Yes.
He should be pardoned.
Yes.
Because?
Yeah, I think he should be pardoned.
Why?
Because I don't think he should be, I don't think he was, I think he should be pardoned, yeah, absolutely.
What about this guy spraying a bear spray at the police officer?
Self-defense?
That's so pardon?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Oh.
Was that from the same day?
Yeah, that's January 6th. The most photographed crime in human history.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can show me 8 million more. I'm pro-pardon.
Wow.
No, where was this at?
This was outside the Capitol.
January 6th?
Yeah. Have you not seen this image?
No, I have not seen that.
Have you seen any of these images?
Some of them, but not these.
Really?
Maybe the ones, maybe the media that I'm following is not showing these.
What?
It could be.
It could be. What media do you follow?
All conservative.
Did you watch the January 6th hearings?
No, I didn't. No.
Of the nearly 1,600 people Donald Trump pardoned, hundreds of them criminally attacked police officers violently with their fists and any form of weapon they could get their hands on, including tasers, chemical spray, bear spray, metal barricades, and a fire extinguisher. 22% of the attackers had criminal records for other crimes. Even Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal editorial board, normally supportive of Donald Trump, objected to his pardoning of what the journal called cop beaters. And yesterday, Donald Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht, the creator of a billion dollar dark web marketplace called Silk Road, which one FBI agent described as the Amazon of the criminal drug trade. The website used cryptocurrency, which was enough to make this worldwide drug dealer a hero of the cryptocurrency cult that Donald Trump is now a leader of after first opposing cryptocurrency. Ross Ulbricht's website promised users encryption and anonymity to buy and sell anything and everything, including heroin. In 2015, a federal criminal jury found Ross Ulbricht guilty of all 7 counts against him, including conspiring to distribute narcotics and conspiring to commit money laundering and what's known as a kingpin charge, crimes that earned him multiple life sentences. During his sentencing, a federal judge also found there was, quote, ample and unambiguous evidence that Ross Ulbricht commissioned murder for hire, paying for hits on at least 5 people who threatened his criminal empire. That man was in prison during Donald Trump's first term, and Donald Trump did not pardon the world's biggest drug dealer at that time. Did not pardon him, but pardoned him on the second day of Donald Trump's second term. What changed? Donald Trump's interest in cryptocurrency? Today, Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern of Massachusetts described the Trump pardons of the January 6th mob this way.
Here are some of the convicted felons that Trump set free on Monday. Stephen Cappuccio, convicted of 6 felonies, including assaulting a police officer, ripped off Metro police officer Daniel Hodges' gas mask, and at one point during the assault, he said, and I quote, "How do you like me now, mother effer?" Pardoned by Donald Trump. David Dempsey, sentenced to 20 years. He stomped on police officers' heads, struck an officer in the head with a metal crutch, and attacked police with pepper spray and broken pieces of furniture. He also attacked a fellow rioter who was trying to disarm him, and he has a demonstrated history of political violence. Pardoned by Donald Trump. Enrique Tarrio, sentenced to 22 years. Former national leader of the Proud Boys, a domestic terrorist far-right militia. He was found guilty of seditious conspiracy, helped plan the January 6th attack, and made sure it was violent. Pardoned by Donald Trump. Guy Reffitt, sentenced to 7 years and 3 months. He brought a gun, zip ties, body armor, and a helmet to the Capitol, presumably to try to take hostages in an attempt to keep Trump in office after he lost. Pardoned by Donald Trump. Daniel Joseph D.J. Rodriguez, sentenced to over 12 years. He repeatedly tased Officer Mike Fanone, shocking him in the neck multiple times and causing him to lose consciousness and have a heart attack. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. Patrick McCaughey III, sentenced to 90 months. He assaulted police, beat their faces and bodies with riot shields and batons that he stole for them. Pardoned by Donald Trump. Peter Francis Stager, sentenced to 4 years and 4 months. He pled guilty to assaulting an officer with a deadly weapon. On video declaring every single one of those Capitol law enforcement officers, death is the remedy. Those are his words. That is the only remedy they get. Pardoned by Donald Trump. Julian Cater, sentenced to 6 years, attacked Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day after suffering 2 strokes. Edward Jake Lang was on trial for 11 charges, including swinging a baseball bat at officers. In addition to his January 6 charges, he began organizing a nationwide network of armed militias in all 50 states, pardoned by Donald Trump. Mr. Speaker, criminals pardoned were not tourists. They were not peaceful. They were violent criminals. And here's just one example. Daniel Ball's case was dismissed today, and he was released from jail. Why was he in jail? He was being held in pretrial detention because of what a judge described as, quote, some of the most violent and serious offenses of any of the charges being brought against participants in the January 6th events, end quote. That includes hurling an explosive device into the Lower West Terrace tunnel of the Capitol, the scene of some of the most egregious violence against police that day. Some officers suffered from hearing loss for months. But get this, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ball has already been arrested again on federal gun charges. And he was already a two-time convicted felon for, and I quote, domestic violence battery by strangulation and resisting law enforcement with violence. Yeah, he already arrested again. This is who the president pardoned. This is why my Republican friends are silent, because this is indefensible.